With Kansas City eliminated, we will see our first AFC Championship game not including Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes since 2010, and it's only the 7th time that's happened since 2000. I mean,
Imagine if someone's just woken up out of a coma and they're listening to this podcast and they're like, Phillip Rivers, what's going on? What's going on? He retired 5 years ago. They look like maybe the best coach team in the league. But Sean McVay is not going to get any coach of the year consideration because it's like, well, it's Sean McVay. We know what he does. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFL. The Chiefs are at a pivotal point in their recent history. What happens now? Because there is a world in which Andy Reid looks at this situation and thinks, this needs a full rebuild. Mahomes is very unlikely to be able to start next season. We'll see how much of next season he plays. The injury is pretty severe. Does Andy Reid really want to go through all of that?
Hello, everyone. Cecil Martin here.
Hey, this is Hunter Henry.
What's up, man? This is Max Crosby, part of Raider Nation.
Hey, this is Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman.
Hey, it's Tyler Lockett of the Seattle Seahawks.
Hey, this is Jared Judah, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, and you're listening to the 14-Yard NFL Podcast.
We have just 3 weeks of the NFL season remaining. Christmas is right around the corner, and we have our first 2 teams confirmed for January's NFL playoffs, the Los Angeles Rams and the Denver Broncos. Where did that time go? You're listening to the 14 Yards NFL podcast. Welcome back if you're a regular listener. It's great to have you with us again. If you're new around here, I'm Sam Moores, and this is the main show from the 14 Yards Podcast Network, which is your home for British commentary of the NFL. Our network ranges from team-specific podcasts to written content on our website to the 2 general podcasts we have across the league, the Go for 2 podcast and this our weekly deep dive on anything happening across the league. If you enjoy the show, please make sure to subscribe on your preferred platform and leave us a review. It really helps us reach more NFL fans, both in the UK and across the pond. Right, on today's episode, I'm here to react to an absolutely bonkers Week 15 before looking ahead to Week 16, which begins with a mammoth tie in the NFC West, where the 11-3 Seahawks will host the 11-3 Rams, hoping to jump the division rival into first place in the NFC playoff picture, and with that, also the lead of the division. Joining me to do that is a regular guest on the podcast, Ben Isaacs, who is an NFL broadcaster based here in the UK, and of course, the author of the American Football Revolution, which tells a story of how Britain fell in love with the NFL. Welcome back to the podcast, Ben. I said to Andrew Gamble, was it last week, that I believe last week's game, so that Week 14 would be the most important set of the season. And I mean, that it really was. It separated the men from the boys in the league, you could say. And then that set up an absolutely wild Week 15. Can you believe that alongside the 2 teams already in the playoffs, there are already another 8 teams that are 95% likely or higher to reach the postseason? What a consequential couple of weeks, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the clinching scenarios for the next set of games, and there's so many dominoes that can fall. And we'll get onto the Lions Steelers game that will happen next week. But that one is going to be ridiculously pivotal. If something can be ridiculously pivotal. I love December football, and you said kind of separating the men from the boys. You do start to get to the point now where there were particular teams in the Broncos and Patriots this week who faced massive challenges, and people were kind of looking at the Broncos and Patriots with second-year quarterbacks saying, okay, can you do it against these good teams like the Bills and the Packers? And obviously different outcomes, but a lot to learn from those games.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get into what was a game-changing Week 15 slate before attention turns to our Week 16 picks. And there's only one place to start, and that's in Kansas City, where the Chiefs were eliminated from the postseason for the first time since 2014 after a 16-13 loss to the Chargers at Arrowhead, their 5th loss in the last 6 games. When I last had you on, Ben, we were looking ahead to week 10. The Chiefs were on their bye at 5-4. They were getting healthier, and we were thinking, oh, here we go again. Andy Reid's about to work his magic coming out of a bye. I mean, now 6 weeks have passed. they've lost 4 more games. They have done just 1 game in that time, and Patrick Mahomes has suffered his first major injury of his career, tearing his ACL. How did it all go so wrong?
I think it's the roster composition. I think for most of us, we kind of overestimated what Andy Reid could do with not a great roster. We overestimated what Patrick Mahomes could do without a whole lot of talent around him on offense. And really, the chickens eventually came home to roost. They have not been putting together a team around Mahomes. Everyone knows Mahomes is, the best offensive player in the league. I'll say it. That he's still got to have some people around him. And it feels like they don't have that. And you look at what the Patriots were able to do when they just kept adding pieces around Brady, who were not necessarily superstars, but it would turn into such important pieces. You just got to have pieces. When you've got a player like Mahomes, you just got to have pieces. You don't have to have wall-to-wall playmakers, because if you've got a Patrick Mahomes, those pieces will make plays. They just don't have enough pieces. And now, there's been all this talk in the last few years about, like, is Mahomes already better than Brady? And that doesn't mean as successful as Brady, better than Brady. But you look at Brady and you have to look at that incredible longevity. Now, what's one thing that Brady and Mahomes have got in common is they've both had an ACL in their 9th season, which is a weird little coincidence. But think how many years Brady played after that. And also, he did that, and the Patriots made the playoffs anyway. So now the Chiefs are at a pivotal point in their recent history. What happens now? Because there is a world in which Andy Reid looks at this situation and thinks, this needs a full rebuild. Mahomes is very unlikely to be able to start next season. We'll see how much of next season he plays. The injury is pretty severe. Does Andy Reid really want to go through all of that? Does he want to do what Bill Belichick did a couple of times, really, and rebuild around a star quarterback and keep being in Super Bowl contention? We've not seen the last of these Chiefs. If they've got Mahomes, they will be in contention. But we might be looking at a very different Chiefs going forward, especially if Andy Reid decides now's the time to step away. 67 is one of the oldest coaches in the league anyway. Maybe it's time to leave.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. He's not going to coach forever, of course. And again, you said Mahomes is probably not going to be around to start the season, due to just the nature of recovering from an ACL. It's a big rebuild. It's Brett Veach's biggest rebuild yet, by far. Like, it's a very, very interesting time with the Chiefs, and obviously the New England comparison is massive because, as I said, both tore the ACL in season 9, both had 3 Super Bowls heading into season 10.
Yeah,
very, very much like the comparisons are quite different. Obviously, the difference there was that New England won the division every year except for the year that Brady was hurt, every single year. So it's whether Kansas City can keep up that, and obviously they had a much, much easier division than the AFC West being for Kansas City as well.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
So that's the other thing. Yeah, absolutely.
And when Brady came back, he was basically fine, but he played the game in a very different way to the way that Patrick Mahomes does. And if this affects Patrick Mahomes' mobility or his ability to make plays on the move, let alone just kind of running and evading defenders, then it might be a different Patrick Mahomes. Now, Tom Brady evolved and was a different quarterback. He was like having three different quarterbacks over the course of his career. Maybe that's in Patrick Mahomes' future. But I don't want to kind of look too far down the road with Patrick Mahomes, but this does feel like it could be a turning point for the Chiefs. Like you say, Andy Reid is not going to coach forever. I'm not saying he's going to leave kind of in shame, of like, oh, the season's gone badly, I have to quit or I'm going to get pushed out. But just, okay, we're not now sort of a few years before things start to change. Things are starting to change now. And do I have the appetite to kind of start from scratch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with Kansas City eliminated, we will see our first AFC Championship game not including Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes since 2010. And it's only the 7th time that's happened since 2000, obviously the year that Brady has came into the league. Isn't that crazy? 19 out of the 25 AFC Championship games since the turn of the millennium has had one of those two guys in it.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's like the first playoff since whatever 1999 or 2000 that we've not had Brady, Manning, or Mahomes in the postseason. The three most successful AFC quarterbacks in that stretch. But obviously Mahomes isn't done, but it's nice to see a new breed of kind of quarterbacks coming through. I've been doing a lot of work on something recently, and I've really been getting into the famed 1983 quarterback draft. 6 quarterbacks taken in the first round that year. 3 of them ended up in the Hall of Fame. There was a ridiculous run of there was something like 15 years where one of those players was in the AFC Championship game all except 2 years or something. So it's a kind of similar sort of stretch. And we're seeing younger quarterbacks come in, and it is good that we kind of get that turnover. It's good for the AFC West to have a little bit of variety there. And that's how the NFL is meant to be, have that parity. But when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes and they're healthy, that Super Bowl window always seems to be open. And I think because of the fact they got to the Super Bowl last year despite not playing well, I think it was very easy for us to talk ourselves into the fact that, well, come mid-November, the Chiefs will turn it on and they will just kind of get enough wins and then they'll be dangerous in the postseason. And a lesson for us all that it doesn't always work out like that, even when you've got an absolute superstar at quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, dynasties have their ups and downs. Let's not forget that New England didn't actually reach the championship game for 3 years after losing to the Giants in the first of those 2 Super Bowls. They had to keep reinventing themselves. They became more of an offensive team after that game. And we'll see. And the Chiefs have reinvented themselves sort of once, maybe 1.5 times. Now we're sort of heading for the second or third iteration of that Kansas City team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. And obviously, you mentioned the Chargers. I mean, fair play to them. They're now 5-0 in the AFC West. They have a 96% chance of returning to the playoffs for a second straight year, and they still have a shot at that division despite all those injuries as well. I mean, Jim. I mean, obviously, he's probably not going to win it because of the other jobs around, but Jim Harbaugh's got to be up there for Coach of the Year, surely.
Yeah, he's done an absolutely fantastic job. Generally, that Coach of the Year will go to the coach of a team who were not expected to make the playoffs. And I think the Chargers were kind of sort of expected at the very least to be in serious contention, that it was only the fact that the Chiefs were in their way. But he has done what he set out to do in LA and change the identity of the Chargers, make them tougher. They are going to be a tough team in the playoffs should they get there. We're going to assume they get there. Obviously, they've certainly not wrapped up that division. There's still a big roadblock in the way. It feels like for the Chargers, there's always someone in the way in the AFC West. But Harbaugh's done an absolutely fantastic job there, and I wasn't totally convinced that it was where he wanted to be, but he's building that team in his own image.
Yeah, of the 3, even though they've got quite a healthy buffer above the edge of the wildcard spots now, of the 3 teams, Chargers, Texans, Bills to drop out, you probably would pick the Chargers now, just because of how injured they are. But again, just even getting to 10 wins, again, 5-0 in this division, it's so impressive. Bearing on the talent in that that division. Obviously, I mentioned the Coach of the Year award. Another big contender for that is Mike Vrabel for the job he's done turn around the Patriots. They have 11 wins, which is obviously a big improvement on their 4-win season under Jerome Bayer last year. They had a chance to triple their win total from 2024 and secure the AFC East title with a win over the Bills on Sunday, in the beating the first matchup back in Week 5 in Buffalo. But it wasn't to be for New England, because Sean McDermott's Bills, who've won those 5 AFC East titles, came back from 21 points down to reduce the gap to the Patriots to just one game, moving to 10-4 on the season. Here come the Bills, Ben.
Yeah, they looked terrifying in the second half. Absolutely terrifying. I thought that game was going to be done. And there were a lot of games in that early slate where it was a team that should win reasonably comfortably, and then they were winning, pretty comfortably. And you wouldn't put the Patriots Bills in that one because that looked like it was going to be super close. But then the other ones, you had things like Eagles hammering the Raiders, and you could start to be like, okay, well, I can ignore that one. I need to focus on what is going on in Foxborough, because something special seems to be brewing. And Buffalo just seem to be able to do this right now, be able to find another gear in the second half of games. And that's all well and good, but at certain points, just you're going to give yourself too much to do. And that's the reason they've lost 5 games this season, despite all the talent. But Josh Allen looked like he came from a different planet on Sunday. One of the best performances of the season, may have put himself at the top of the MVP race. And I kind of trust the Bills more than I trust the Patriots right now. And that might just be, well, we've seen the Bills and this version of the Bills make the playoffs so many times. And we're seeing, season 1 of this iteration of the Patriots. And I think they're going to be good. And I think, they're going to make the playoffs, and they may still win that division. But I think the Bills are a better team.
Well, that's the thing. And they've got a serious chance of winning this division now, because, again, they're just a game back. And it's very similar to what they did in 2023. The Dolphins had a 3-game lead with 5 games to go. All they needed to do, very similar to New England, all they needed to do was just win the game. All the Dolphins needed to do was beat the Titans on Monday Night Football to secure the AFC East for the first time since 2008. Buffalo was 6-6 at that point. Miami were 9-3. They lost to the Titans, and they went 2-1 down the stretch, which wasn't even that bad. But Buffalo won out and then beat the Dolphins in the Sunday Night Football game to finish the season. And they've a very, very similar pattern happened that year to what could happen to New England this year. Buffalo do have a slightly harder schedule, but I mean, for New England, like losing in that manner doesn't do any favors for the people who were sort of saying we don't take the Patriots seriously because they've only beaten just one team over 500. I mean, that game on Sunday against the Ravens is absolutely huge for all these Patriots, because if they lose that game, again, can you quantify how big that game is?
Yeah,
for both teams, especially New England.
The narrative on the Patriots will start to change, because that's how it works. And you'd expect the Bills to beat the Browns. I know we're going to get into these games briefly towards the end, but if the Ravens win and the Bills beat the Browns, all of a sudden there will be talk of, are the Patriots going to choke this away? And it's a little bit unfair, because it's a young team that is climbed near the top of a mountain to be able to be in contention to win the AFC East in year 1 of this new regime. And if they lose to the Ravens and Bills in back-to-back weeks, those are 2 teams that we would have said at the start of the season were absolute locks to make the playoffs, and probably, locks to win their division. So they've got the Ravens, and then they've got easier games. And the Bills have got the Browns, the Eagles, and the Jets. Obviously, the Eagles is the toughest one. There's a world where they both go 2-1 down the stretch, and that would be enough for the Patriots. Yeah.
So again, that game, the Philly Buffalo game, is going to be huge. Some great games coming up for sure. We'll move on to the late window now, where the Broncos tightened their grip on the 1 seed in the AFC. They already had the common opponents tiebreaker over the Patriots, having beaten the Raiders, and the Patriots lost to the Raiders coming into the game. And that gap has now extended to 1.5 games after the Broncos beat the red-hot Green Bay Packers. With the win, they secure their spot in the postseason. They also now have a 63% chance of finishing as the 1 seed in the AFC as well, which is just crazy this early. So this early into like the sort of end of the season, like the Broncos more likely than not are going to be the 1 seed, whatever happens in the AFC. And obviously, while it was delight for the Broncos, it was dismay for the Packers, who lost superstar pass rusher Micah Parsons for the season with an ACL injury, while star receiver Christian Watson and offensive lineman Zach Tom also suffered injuries. I mean, how do you even summarize that game, Ben?
Oh God, I mean, I thought the Packers had that game completely under control, and there was then just a stretch of like about an hour or so in real time where it felt like you were watching their season come apart at the seams. They lost the lead, they lost Christian Watson, they lost Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is probably their most impactful player. When you make a blockbuster trade for a player like Micah Parsons, and back when he was arguing with the Cowboys, I was on here saying, I just don't see any way that the Cowboys let him go when you have a player as good as that. The Packers made a blockbuster deal. You don't make that deal for the regular season. You make it so that during that postseason, you have the most dominant defensive player in the NFC, and he is the most dominant defensive player in the NFC. He is irreplaceable for the Packers right now. And to lose him at this point of the season, when they're half a game back in the division, they should still make the playoffs, but it is by no means guaranteed because of the way that wild card race is in the NFC, because you've got the NFC West is stacked and the NFC North is stacked. Both divisions have 3 teams that are legitimate playoff contenders, and they won't all fit. For this to happen right now, Christian Watson isn't going to be out long term, but if he misses the next game and they lose that game, the Packers are in serious trouble because someone is going to drop out who should get in. The Broncos, meanwhile, just wow. The way they came back, the character they showed, Bo Nix having maybe his best game ever in the pros. And what a time to make that statement when you are playing one of the best teams in the league, a team that, although it's young, has more experience than you do, is, used to competing in the playoffs. And they just took it to them in the second half and controlled the game, deservedly won it, deservedly now in the playoffs. Whether they feel like they're a number 1 seed, I don't know, but I think that's because the AFC is a little bit weird this year with the teams that we would expect to challenge who have not challenged, teams that have underperformed, the likes of the Bengals and the disasters that they've had with injuries, But the Broncos deserve to be currently the top seed. And, they've got the Jags, the Chiefs, and the Chargers coming up. The Chiefs, they should win because the Chiefs are in disarray. But the Jags and the Chargers, those are 2 really tough games. So they may not be able to keep on that number 1 seed if they lose those 2 games. So it's touch and go for them, but it's in sight. And the job that Sean Payton has done is also terrific. There were so many coaches where you can say what a brilliant job they've done, that it isn't just, oh, they've got a really good team and they're winning games. It's what an incredible job that they've done, because this Broncos team, it is not like an all-star team, but everything fits together so well. And that was just completely on display on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It probably was Bo Nix's best game since being drafted, of course, and turning up in the biggest moment again for him as well. Like that second half for him was brilliant. But I think it was also like his most complete game in that he looked decent from start to finish, where it's not always been the case watching these Broncos so far this year. And again, yeah, it's fascinating in Green Bay because when with that loss, the Bears winning, their chance to win a division went down to just 43%. The Bears are now the favourites for that division numerically, which is crazy. Obviously, that game on Saturday is so much riding on it as well.
Oh boy,
yeah. So they lose that again. Yeah, Green Bay could get really, really interesting. And you'll finish off with Denver now. Like, would you say they're the favourites right now to represent the AFC in a Super Bowl? Or would you maybe look at Buffalo with how they turned up?
No, do you know what? I would say yes, they're the favorite because of the fact that they've already clinched, that we know that even a collapse and they're still in the tournament. If they were playing the Bills on a neutral field, I'd go for the Bills. But as it stands, for the Bills to play them, it's going to be in Denver. And I'd probably lean towards Denver at that point. I think the way that they're built and the way they're being coached, they're going to be such a tough team in the playoffs. It's going to be really interesting seeing that AFC playoffs play out, because there are new teams, new quarterbacks, coaches in new places, but the Broncos are incredibly well positioned and they absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, we see that that Final Four from 2017 a lot, when it was what was it? Blake Bortles, Case Keenum, Nick Foles, and Tom Brady as the four. We sort of heading for something similar to that this year, compared to like many of the other quarterbacks we've seen in the playoffs in previous years. Obviously, maybe not that bad, unless there are team quarterbacks that get injured in a lot of those cases, like Case Keenum and Nick Foles weren't the starters for those teams that year, and then obviously other things happened. But we are sort of heading for that a different a different set of teams in the championship game, which is really fun for the league. I think. Well, we'll finish this segment where week 16 starts, and that's in the NFC West. With a win over the Lions, the Rams became the first team to secure a playoff spot before the Broncos achieved that feat, of course, about half an hour later in real time. It was a bit of a shootout early on that game. The Lions looked really good at points, but as the game went on, their defense just looked so banged up as it has for the last month or so, probably, and the Rams just pulled away. They now have a 55% chance of ending up as the 1 seed in the NFC. And with a win over Seattle on Thursday, that goes up to 91% chance of having the 1 seed and a 95% chance of winning the NFC West. But they will go into that game likely without Devontae Adams. He's not officially been ruled out yet, but I'd be shocked if he plays the way his hamstring looked after putting up in that game on Sunday. That's going to be a huge problem for Sean McVay going against his unbelievable Seattle defense. The Rams. I mean, I saw a graphic the other. It might be today. I saw a tweet, and it was, since 2018, either the Rams or the Chiefs have been in the Super Bowl, which is just unbelievable consistency from them. Again, how much has changed in those two teams, so much change. And then this Rams team that could, probably will, if you like, they're the favourites for the NFC to get in the Super Bowl right now. That team is completely different to the team that won in 2021. It's like completely different. It's crazy that the Rams and the Chiefs have been the two constants in the last 10 years or so.
It felt like when the Rams won that Super Bowl that they had put all their chips in the middle of the table, and it was Super Bowl or bust, and that then it was going to have to fall apart because of the way the team was built, because of the way they traded away draft picks, that they were going to have to perhaps not bottom out, but they were going to have to decline and then come back. And when you've got such a talented coach as Sean McVay, who is still young and was even younger then, you can roll the dice like that and think, okay, we're going to win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford, and then we'll decline, we'll have a new quarterback, and we'll try to do it all again. Hasn't even happened like that. They dipped, but I wouldn't really call it a decline. Matt Stafford has obviously declined because of his age, but is having potentially an MVP caliber season. They look like maybe the best coach team in the league, but Sean McVay is not going to get any coach of the year consideration because it's like, well, it's Sean McVay. We know what he does. I think the Rams are the best team in the NFL. They are not only, I think, obviously they're the number 1 seed right now in the NFC. You'd said about the Broncos, are they the favorites? Are they the team that you would pick right now? In the NFC, I would absolutely pick the Rams. And I'm not saying they're unbeatable. They could easily lose to Seattle, this in their next game. And it changes everything. But at least we know the Rams are going to be in the playoffs. The thing that counts against them is that no one is afraid to go to SoFi Stadium to face the Rams. A lot of teams, it'll be like, well, it's like a neutral stadium. We'll have half of it. It doesn't matter. But they are just so good. Nobody schemes like Sean McVay. I love watching this Rams team. The Lions actually look good. The fact that they are still in contention despite the injuries, despite, the coaching brain drain that they had in the offseason, the way that they have come back this season. Lots of people felt that they were going to take a step back, and they have, but they're still playing really hard. They can
still score 35 points a game.
Exactly. Yeah. And right now, if it's NFC wildcard musical chairs, they're the ones left standing without a seat. And they are so good. If you put them in the NFC South or the NFC East, I believe they win those divisions, and they might not even make the playoffs. But you look at the way that the Rams were able to beat them and the different things that they did. Incredible job from the Rams. And yeah, right now they are my NFC pick.
Yeah, I mean, they might have had Seattle, lost to Phillip Rivers Colts. The Rams would be coming into this game thinking, "Oh, we can pretty much wrap up the division with this win, because they've already beaten Seattle once." So
yeah,
win this game. It's a couple games then. The division pretty much wrapped up. Now that's not the case. This game is now really, really important on Thursday Night Football, because the Seahawks just about snuck in and beat the Colts.
Imagine if someone's just woken up out of a coma and they're listening to this
2 weeks
podcast
ago.
and they're like, Phillip Rivers, what's going on? What's going on? He retired 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, he thought he looked okay, and they didn't ask him to throw the ball downfield much. But the Colts defense did very, very well against this Seahawks offense. They didn't score a single touchdown. It was just 6 Jason Myers field goals, including obviously the one that won the game. Pretty much as time has expired. It was a really weird game, especially obviously with Rivers coming back after 5 years out of the game, and somehow he almost led the Colts to victory to keep them properly in the hunt. Their playoff chances are about 8% now, so it's pretty much over for the Colts, unfortunately, which is a shame. They've got the Niners, Jags, and Texans coming up, so yeah, it's brutal for the Colts. Really.
A lesson to everyone: when we get these stories where a team sort of comes out of nowhere, it's not that people thought the Colts would be terrible this season. I mean, if you were told that at this point in the season that's the record they'd have, you'd be like, yeah, that's absolutely what I'd expect. But no one would have expected this kind of narrative arc that they've had. And, I love talking about Super Bowl windows, right? And elite quarterbacks keep those windows open. It's like this super heavy window that gravity is trying to push down, and you've got the right quarterback. They can just hold it up. You get a Daniel Jones, and maybe it's like, oh, look at this. He's pushing it open. How is he doing this? But it tends not to last. And it's a mirage. And there's a situation with the Colts where they felt so confident that he was going to hold that window open for multiple seasons that they made a blockbuster trade for Sauce Gardner. You only make that trade if you are confident you've got your quarterback, because otherwise you need those draft picks. So it might be that at the end of this season, when the Colts look back at what went wrong, what messed us up, the biggest thing may not be the injury to Daniel Jones. It may be the decision to trade away their short-term future for Sauce Gardner, thinking he was going to be the thing that changes them from a contender to a Super Bowl champion. And they might rue that decision because they've got Old Man Rivers as their potential starter now, and they've got Anthony Richardson as Potentially he's going to come back. He's returned to kind of a form of training, but he basically lost a lot of his vision because of the bizarre accident that he had with the kind of stretchy tape that they stretch with. And he's had such an up and down career, Anthony Richardson, the way that he was brought into the league to be this superstar for the Colts, despite having barely played any games. And the fact that now Phillip Rivers is their first choice. He did far better than many of us would have expected, but he's not taking them to the postseason. And this might be just a cautionary tale for other teams that get a player who overachieves and all of a sudden they think, oh, we're a Super Bowl contender for the next few years now. We don't need those draft picks anymore.
Well, you look back at it and you think, when we last on the podcast, Ben, we were saying, I don't know if you gamble for Daniel Jones, you're committing to him, but you're committing to him now, and you're now committing to Daniel Jones coming off an Achilles injury. It's like that going all in. Obviously, the Sauce Gardner trade, that's not really worked out. He's been hurt as well. Like, it looks so bad now when we were debating that 6 weeks ago. Again, it just shows how much has changed. That the Colts were a lock and for the playoffs pretty much that time, and now they're coming back and going after Phillip Rivers to sort of help them squeeze into the playoffs for the first time since Rivers retired in 2020, where they got spanked by Buffalo. Like, they've not been back to the playoffs since. That is just absolutely crazy, and it's a shame because they were a really fun team to watch. But I think it's sort of the end of the road for them now. Seattle, like, this is a huge game for them on Thursday. A win gives them a 52% chance of winning the West and a 50% chance of the 1 seed. Again, they're pretty much a playoff team, but if they lose this game, then it's the wild card berths for Seattle. And it's a really interesting game for Sam Darnold. Everyone and their mum are going to be watching Sam Darnold with close eyes in this game because he's playing against his, the nemesis, the Rams, who've caused him chaos the last 2 times they've played him. Sam Darnold has also not played very well the last couple of weeks. Teams are noticing if you sort of make him hold on to the ball and make him think a lot, then this offense is not what it has. Well, what is Minnesota like? Darnold, it's crazy. If you look at his numbers, anything over 2.5 seconds, and Sam Darnold most of the time has like a bad game. Maybe like 2.93 seconds is like the most. But the reason why he was been so good so far this season is because he got the ball out quickly. The reason why it's been so good last season before the Lions and the Rams games last year was because he was getting the ball out quickly. 2 of his longest times to throw were in those 2 games. And now everyone's going to be watching Darnold because, again, if Seattle struggle like they have done on offense the last couple of weeks in this game, again, it's a bit like the Patriots. Are they contenders really? It's a huge game just for the narrative around Seattle and Sam Darnold. This against the Rams on Thursday night, isn't it?
And we're very much in pantomime season. Apologies for anyone who is listening from outside the UK and has no idea what I'm talking about, but it is pantomime season. And Cinderella, it's, we've had a lot of Cinderella stories, and Sam Darnold this is a Cinderella story. But what tends to happen for him is that he turns into a pumpkin at midnight. The time runs out for him. And we're reaching that point of the year where that's when it starts to happen. And talking about kind of narratives and the way that the narratives will shift, especially this late in the season when a team loses a big game, which could happen to the Patriots this week. If the Seahawks lose, and bear in mind, they didn't score a touchdown against the Colts, and the Colts are not good. They were lucky to beat the Colts. They deserved to win, but they needed luck to get past the Colts. If they play anything like that against the Rams, they lose. That's as simple as that. If they lose and Darnold does not have a good game, it will all come back of this is what happened in Minnesota last year. That Sam Darnold had good players around him, good coaching, but once we got to the business end of the season, once it really, really started to matter, he crumbled. Early in his career, he'd said that he was seeing ghosts, that he was feeling pressure that wasn't there, that like mentally he was struggling in the biggest moments when the lights were the brightest. The light's going to be very bright against the Rams. Are the Seahawks a playoff team? Absolutely. Do I have confidence that Sam Darnold can go and win multiple playoff games? Sam, I'm not so sure about that. And I'm not saying it can't happen, but you say it about Matt Stafford. Yes, absolutely. Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Hurts even, and an Eagles team that isn't as good as the Seahawks. Jalen Ramsey
had a great game last night, that's why.
Yeah, I know. Jalen Ramsey is in my head. But Jalen Hurts on a team that isn't as good. These Eagles are not as good as those Seahawks. Absolutely, I got confidence he can win multiple playoff games because we've seen him do it. But Sam Darnold, I need to see it. I think the Seahawks team is brilliant. They'll be in the playoffs. It would take a bizarre situation for them to not be in the playoffs. Keep saying about there's going to be an odd team out. It's not going to be the Seahawks. They've already just got enough wins, I think, that it's going to be difficult. But do I trust Sam Darnold? I don't. I'm sorry. He's not Daniel Jones, but you know.
Especially as we've seen him throw, was it 4 or 5 interceptions against these Rams like 3 weeks ago? That's the thing. And again, who was it that gave him the crazy game in the playoffs last season in Minnesota? Right, the Rams. Like this Rams defense has been his kryptonite. It's just going to be show-stopping this game. We're going to pick in that game now. We're going to pick in all the Week 16 games. Now, and I have to say that I looked at some of these lines this morning, and some did surprise me massively, which I'll get into later on. Before we get into it, a quick score update. My record is 108 and 112, whilst the guests combined for 101 and 119. So it's now a 7-game gap after I beat Adam Wolford last week. Last week before, Andrew Gamble and I both went 5 and 9. I was above 500 for like a very, very short time, but now I'm 4 games below it. We'll start with the game we were just talking about. In Seattle, the Rams are favoured in this one, going to Seattle as 1.5 point favourites. So it's basically just a pick 'em. Which way are you going to go here, Ben?
Oh my God, this one it is a pick 'em. This is an incredible game. I wish it wasn't Thursday night. I'll be honest with you. LA, it's gonna have to be LA.
Yeah, I just think they're a better team. I trust them. I know what they're going to do, even without Devontae Adams. I mean, like Puka Nacua going out and coming back into the game was brilliant because if this game changes, the complexion of this game changes completely when you're missing Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua. When Puka Nacua is in there, when you've got the 3 tight ends who are all playing brilliantly, when you've got the 2 running backs on this Rams team as well, like you can do without Devontae Adams, especially against a Seattle team that, again, the points would start drying up for in recent times. I'm going to go for the Rams. I think Seattle could win, absolutely. I think this defense is brilliant. I think Mike McDonald is a great coach. But I just can't pick against the Rams in this spot because I just think they, again, like you said, they're probably the best team in the NFL. So
it's a tough place to go, though. It's a tough place to go.
Although they've been terrible at home recently. Like, their record away from home is actually better than at home, which is quite weird under Mike McDonald.
Yeah, they've only lost once on the road this season.
Yeah, and again, last season they were better on the road as well. It is crazy that is the case. Because, again, that has been such a... I mean, in the Pete Carroll era, that was such a home field advantage for them, the noise. There's also 2 games on Saturday night. One's brilliant, one's terrible. Just the way it's worked out. The Packers-Bears game was meant to be the early game, and the Eagles-Commanders game was meant to be the late game, but because that game, now the Washington are out and Daniels is out for the year, they've been flipped. The Packers-Bears game is the late game, so we'll start with the game. It starts at 10 p.m. It is the Eagles going to Washington. Marcus Mariota again for Washington. As I said, Jaden Daniels is out for the year. He's been officially ruled out this week with an elbow injury. The Eagles, huge win for them, shutting out the Raiders after a horrible couple of weeks for them. Narrative-wise, again, the offense, we still don't know what it is. Saquon Barkley did avoid an injury, which is great for them, but again, he's not running the football very well. AJ Brown didn't get much of the ball, but did catch a touchdown. The drama is still very much there, and Jalen Hurts obviously is 8 days removed from a terrible performance on Monday Night Football where he turned the ball over 5 times. the Eagles are 6.5-point favorites, despite all of that, because of how bad the Washington Commanders are. It's in Washington, this one. How are you thinking?
I think the Commanders are atrocious. I think they've got actual problems. I don't think this is simply our quarterback's injured. Because actually, Mariota hasn't done too badly. All things considered, they're not losing games because of him. They're losing games because they're a bad team, and I think the Eagles will cover this one.
Yeah, me too. It's the roster composition for the Commanders. Like, they're the oldest team in the league. They spent a lot of money on players who are past their prime now. It's still, like Larry Tunsil, he's a good player, but he's not in his prime anymore. Von Miller, he's definitely not in his prime anymore. Why you thought you could rely on him as a pass rusher?
This is what happens when you're convinced you have to win right now. Right now. We've got this quarterback who is super hot right now. We've got to go all in and not worry about what it's going to mean in 2 or 3 years' time. And then you lose the quarterback. You realize that actually these players we're surrounded him with aren't Super Bowl caliber, and you end up with this 4-10 mess.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, you normally build from the bottom to the top. You start, you just get loads of draft picks. You create a young team. Jayden Daniels came into it. They fell upon him to an old team, and again, last year it was great, but then it's created so many issues this year. And again, Deebo Samuel, he's not in his prime. Then you go and make that trade. You pay Terry McLaurin. So much is invested in these two guys, and they're both on their second contracts. It was in second paydays. They're on their third contracts. It's very much a bit of a mess in Washington. I agree with you. And then we'll get on to the big game on Saturday night. The Bears host the Packers. The Packers are 1.5-point favorites going to Soldier Field here. Obviously, rematch the game 2 weeks ago. That was brilliant. The Bears almost got it done. Obviously, that fourth down wasn't the best in the end, whether it was Caleb Williams making the wrong decision or again the play call making it the same exact play call pretty much as what it was in the Eagles game 2 weeks before that game. But they got a chance to redeem themselves. As I said, the Bears numerically are the favourites for this division. If they can win this game, they are well on their path to reach the playoffs. They'll go to 11 wins. Lose this game, and again, it gets interesting with Detroit on their huge game for your Bears, Ben. They're underdogs in this game, but 1.5 points. It's the bookies, they've certainly got a chance going against a Packers team now that are without Micah Parsons.
Yeah, I pity anyone who is a Bears fan who has family staying with them this weekend that will really cause a problem for a Bears fan who might want to be trying to just watch that game and potentially make noise watching that game where, unless you've got a giant house and lots of spare rooms, then, people are perhaps in the way a little bit when you want to do that. I'm just speaking hypothetically, God damn it. If I wasn't a Bears fan, I would be absolutely picking the Bears here because I think they went toe to toe with the Packers at Lambeau Field 2 weeks ago, and here they are now at home. The Packers having lost their most important player, and the Packers being 1.5-point favorites. I just don't want to jinx it, so I'm going to go Green Bay, but I think that's my bias talking. I think I'm too afraid to get hurt.
I'll get the other way then. I'll go for Chicago. I think this team, again, they are the better team on both sides of the line of scrimmage in this game, which will be a huge factor. That's just a fact. The Bears' defensive line has come on leaps and bounds since the start of the season. The Packers' offensive line is banged up. The Packers' defensive line is banged up. The Bears should control both sides of the line of scrimmage. They have the better run game, in my opinion, as well. This should be a Bears win, so I'm going to go for it. But again, rivalry division games, anything could happen, so I'm not confident on that one. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. Talking about division games, don't get bigger than in the NFC South. The Panthers and the Bucks are both at 7-7 and have got to play each other twice in the next 3 weeks to decide that division title. Obviously, one of them will get into the playoffs over the next 3 weeks. Both teams not coming to this one in great form. The Panthers were outdueled by the Saints, and the Bucks are in a bit of disarray, really. The way they've finished their season, they lost to the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. And they've got a mini bye, obviously. They've got the extra couple of days over the Panthers to prepare for this game. And, well, because of that, they are 2.5-point favourites going to Carolina. Also, on paper, the Bucks should win this game. But the way the Bucks have been playing in the recent weeks, you don't know what this Bucks team is anymore. And then Carolina, well, Bryce Young is always going to keep them in the game, but are they good enough yet to win the division? This game is so bonkers, isn't it? Because we didn't think we'd get it when the Bucks were like 7-2 or whatever. We didn't think we'd get here, and somehow now these 2 games to finish the season are huge.
There must have been plenty of people who thought we're looking at a Bucks Colts Super Bowl, and there is the very real possibility neither make the playoffs. The Panthers, with the way that they let that game slip away against the Saints, I don't have confidence in either of these teams. But obviously the Bucks really messed things up against the Falcons. I don't know if it's just recency bias that was a few days before the Panthers messed up against the Saints. They both lost to bad teams in the division, but I'm gonna go with the Bucks in this one. I just think I have just too little faith in the Panthers. If they'd beaten the Saints, if they had done what, say, the Bears or the Jags or the Eagles did on the weekend, in that they were there at the top of a division beating a bad team. If they'd done that, if they'd beaten them by like double digits, I would have started to believe in the Panthers. But I think the Panthers showed who they really are, a team who we cannot rely on. The Bucks maybe have done the same, but I'm going to have to go Bucks.
I'm going to go for the Bucks as well. Also, let's not forget they're getting healthier. Like, by the time the game in 3 weeks' time happens, they're probably going to have most of the weapons back, which is huge for them. So if they can win this game, then you'd like to think that it probably will be the Bucks division to lose. So I'm going to pick them as a huge game. Like, it may just be I think basically this game is going to be a Baker Mayfield versus Bryce Young, like absolute duel. Because a lot of the time both of these players just put their team on their back, and especially like late in games or whatever. Like this is a very entertaining, especially for like college football lovers as well. Like, these 2 guys, like, these were meant, like, obviously number 1 overall picks. Like, both weren't really meant to be number 1 picks at points, and then sort of came in. Then great seasons, like great individual seasons that then got them. Obviously Baker a couple of years, and then Bryce Young again, like sort of decent end, and then that Heisman Trophy winning season. Like it's great game that for the football neutral, especially, I think, because again both those guys in a big spot, probably the biggest spot of Bryce Young's career, and again for Baker now, there's a lot of doubters over the Bucks. It's a huge spot for them too. I'm going for the Bucks, as I said, but I just really look forward to watching that game, to want to see, especially as a lot of games in this early window. The next couple are terrible. I think it will be that one. Okay, let's go to Cleveland now. Shador Sanders' Browns host the Bills. Obviously, they're now red hot Bills off the beat of the Patriots. The Bills are 10.5-point favourites going to Cleveland here. Huge spread there. This could be the game that Myles Garrett sets the single season sack record. Obviously, he's 1 away now. Again, if you do that against Josh Allen, that's pretty good. He's one of the hardest guys to bring down in the league. Basically, this game is, can the Bills carry on what there is, what they did in Buffalo, and can Myles Garrett do the record in this game? Or sort of go on to the next 2 games.
It's all about.
It sounds about right.
Yeah, it's all about how much will the Bills win by, and will Garrett get the record? That's the only reason anyone is watching. I think it could say Bills by like 28, and I'd probably go with the Bills. So I'm definitely taking the Bills. And I'm going to say Garrett doesn't get the record just yet, but I hope he gets it before the final game of the season. I want him to do it in 16 games, not 17, because the whole 17 game thing has just skewed things. He's incredible, best defensive player in the league. I'll be glad for him when he gets it. But I don't know. Josh Allen, like you say, is a hard guy to bring down. Bills, I think, will cover.
Yeah, I think for Buffalo to cover that 10.5-point spread too. Now, this one surprised me. The Dallas Cowboys are 2.5-point favorites going to finish 10-4.
Same.
Yeah, the 10-4 LA Chargers. there are quite literally 4 games between them, in terms of record, or 3.5 games, you could say, right? But the Cowboys 2.5-point favorites in this one. Obviously, the Chargers Cowboys in general probably do have a better team than the Chargers, based on health, you could say. But the way Dallas lost on Sunday night, that's why I'm shocked more than anything, because this team now isn't playing for anything.
Yeah, the Cowboys, I think, are the best team in the NFL right now that have a losing record. I don't see why that gets you this sort of line. I feel it's just to tempt people. I'm definitely going with the Chargers to cover. If the Cowboys win, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, who could have seen that coming? But I don't think they've earned this line, and I'm definitely picking the Chargers.
Yeah, me too. Okay, I'll go to Miami now. I said, Dallas, Miami suffered elimination this weekend, losing to the Steelers. They host Joe Burrow and the Bengals, who were eliminated last week, and again weren't great this week either. They're now 4-10 on the season. The Dolphins are 6-8. Joe Burrow will play in this game, even with the Bengals being out. He'll play for the rest of the year. Zach Taylor announced yesterday. The Bengals are 1.5-point favorites going to Miami in this one, which again interested me. Again, you like to say on paper the Bengals are the better team, but again, with the Bengals, you have no idea what team's going to turn up. Bengals favoured going into Miami. I think both these teams are dead at this point, and both these teams could look drastically different in a year's time, you could think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Bengals in the thought that they just really want to get the bad taste out of their mouth from last week. But this is a game that I really hoped a couple of weeks ago would have something riding on it, and I don't know what sort of performance we're going to see from these players. I think a lot of them will be checked out. Certain Bengals players look like they've been checked out for weeks. And the Dolphins looked like they were going to just make it a little bit interesting. I was disappointed when they lost. But yeah, I'll take the Bengals. But this is not a game I would choose to put money on, because I have no idea how motivated anyone is in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the first half the Dolphins played the Steelers very well. The Steelers scored just before half time, but they played them close, and then 3 straight touchdowns to start the second half. The Dolphins negative yardage in the third quarter. It all just went wrong there, and their season. There's slim chances of making a playoffs, but their season did come to an end there. I wasn't really confident with what I saw from that team. And again, Marvin Daniel showed that he kind of abandoned his roots of running the football again, even though, again, Tua wasn't great in this game at all. I think he had 60 yards at the half. Give me the Bengals here. I just think they are the better team, and they've got a better quarterback 100%. I think Joe Burrow will probably be a factor in this game for the Bengals there. Oh, another great game. The 4-10 Saints host the 3-11 Jets. We have no idea who's going to start at quarterback for the Jets, because it's too early in the week. They've not even practiced yet. It could be Brady Cook again. Obviously, Tyler Taylor's coming back from a groin injury, and Justin Fields is coming back from a knee injury. Because of that, the Saints are 4.5-point favourites. And again, in recent weeks, they've shown some encouraging signs with Tyler Shuck at quarterback. I'm going for the Saints here. Just purely because of the uncertainty of the Jets. And yeah, Shucks looked pretty decent, hasn't he, a couple of weeks?
Yeah, those are the exact reasons that I would go for. I mean, I feel that the Saints roster is absolutely abysmal, kind of top to bottom, and it really needs to be sorted out. But this Jets team, they just seem to be able to do everything wrong. This is a game that I don't think I'll be paying too much attention to, and I wouldn't generally choose to bet on this game, but I am going to join you in going with the Saints. Am I right in saying that only 2 teams with a winning record are playing at 6:00? And it's the Chargers and the Bills.
That's it.
Like,
yeah. Obviously, the Bucks and the Panthers. Yeah, whichever team wins of the Bucks and the Panthers will have a winning record.
They'll have a winning record.
Both 7-7. Yeah.
But maybe the worst 6 p.m. slate of the season. But you got to just take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah, again, if the Vikings were good, if the Chiefs were good, two teams that were predicted to get into the playoffs earlier in the season, again, the Bengals, and obviously,
if it wasn't Christmas and the Bears Packers game was on Sunday, those sort of things, it would be So but,
absolutely
brutal.
I know, right? We'll go to New York now. We'll go from the Jets to the Giants. Giants 2-12. They host the 6-8 Vikings. JJ McCarthy last couple of weeks again has had an upturn in form. Again, because of that, the Vikings are 2.5-point favorites going to the Meadowlands. Here, the Vikings are rightful favorites. It's just which Jaden McCarthy turns up, and it's whether Jackson Dart can keep himself without a concussion in this game, really, isn't it?
Yeah, the Giants are another team that I don't have full faith in, but I feel that I like Jackson Dart. I like him more than I like JJ McCarthy right now, but JJ McCarthy's not played that many games either. I'm going to take the Vikings. I've got a bit more faith in them, but again, this is a game that if you were putting money on it, just beware, because we just don't know. We just don't know what these teams will want to do. How many of these teams are thinking, I don't want to get injured. I'm thinking about the fact that it's almost the end of the season and I'm going to put my feet up, or I'm going to be a free agent. Not a whole lot of motivation for a lot of these players.
Yeah, going Minnesota as well. Brian Flores' defense is playing hard. Doesn't look like either of the Giants units are playing hard. That defense for the Giants is such a disappointment this year. The amount of talent they've got on that defense. Give me Minnesota here. And then the final game in the early window sees the 2-12 Titans host the 6-8 Chiefs. Obviously, we've got Minshew at quarterback. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites in this one. I guess it's a good job for Cam Ward. He's not going against Patrick Mahomes. At the end, the Chiefs' defense has been not great in recent weeks, so you'd like to think he can. He's shown some growth the last couple of weeks. Cam Ward has, especially what he has to work with. Test for Spags again. This test against him for him going against Spags. But again, this Spags defense has not been the same either. The Chiefs are 3.5-point favorites with Gardner Minshew here.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs. I do still like Cam Ward. He's in an impossible situation, and he's clearly getting frustrated. And I'm glad that they've just stuck with him. They haven't tried to be like, okay, well maybe we need to bench him for a little bit. You just let him play, just let him grow, just let him kind of take his licks. I think he's going to be fine. But this Titan team is rubbish, and even this Chiefs team should beat them.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Chiefs as well, but I do think the Titans can make it close. They've actually played a lot of close games recently. I do think it could be close again. Right, okay. The 9 p.m. slate now start in Arizona.
Much better, Sam. Much better window.
Well, this game's not great. 3-11 Cardinals against 5-9 Falcons. This game's not great. But there are two really good ones in this window. The 5-9 Falcons are 2.5-point favorites going to Arizona. Here, obviously two quarterbacks that didn't start the season, Kirk Cousins and Jacoby Brissett. Bit of a mess this game. Falcons probably a better talented team, and because of that, they're 2.5-point favorites going into this game.
This looks like an unwatchable mess. I will go with the Falcons. I think the Cardinals just better at messing up, just doing the simple things wrong. So I don't want to have recency bias because the Falcons won the other day. I still think they're a bad team, but I think they're good enough to beat this bad Cardinals team. Yeah,
me too. And it's funny, had they started winning maybe a week earlier, they could have actually won the division because obviously Tampa Bay, Carolina playing each other twice sort of hurts them in that. So they are eliminated. But if only they won one more game, they could have started the division. Which is
that's tragic, isn't it?
Which would have been crazy. Okay, you'll go on to the good games now. This one's huge in the AFC playoff picture. The 12-2 Broncos host the 10-4 Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off Trevor Lawrence's 6-touchdown day last Sunday. The Broncos are 3.5-point favorites in this one. If they win this game, goes a long way to that quest for the 1 seed. Really interesting game this. Obviously, we don't really know what the Jags are. We're starting to know what the Broncos are now.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. The Jaguars kind of are starting to take shape and looking like they are kind of forming some sort of identity. And Trevor Lawrence has had a really good season. The Broncos are unbeaten at home. They are very strong at Mile High. They have really got their tails up right now. I think this one is going to be super tight, and I think the line is fair. I'm going to go with the Broncos. I think this one is going to be absolutely brilliant. These are 2 playoff caliber teams. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags pull out the upset, but I've got to go Broncos.
Yeah, I don't trust this Jags team. Again, they play a lot of easy games. That's why they are at a 10-4 record. They're under ball.
This is their chance for a statement win, though, right? This is the one that This is it. This is their chance, because if they win this, then all of a sudden it will be like, this is a team that can reach the Super Bowl. And it's within their grasp. It's within their grasp. I really think they can beat the Broncos. I don't think they will, but I think they can. I think it's in a safe range of outcomes. I like them. I think I like them more than you do, but I still need to see something to make me actually have confidence in them.
I like their defense. I like their run game. I don't trust Trevor Lawrence, and I think that's the thing. Like that is the thing. He has got better in the last couple of weeks. The last couple of weeks have been very good. He was average the first half of the season. I was saying mistakes have cut in. If he has another great game, I'm very happy to be wrong. If he has another great game after the last sort of 3 or 4 he's had, but just history tells me that Trevor Lawrence doesn't win this game, and I think that's sort of why I'm going to go for the Broncos 2. Okay, I mean, we mentioned earlier, a huge game for the sort of wild card race and also the division race, I guess, for Pittsburgh. Now the 8-6 Steelers head to Detroit to play the 8-6 Lions. The Lions need to win this game to keep their playoff chances alive. They are sort of they're a little. They're more likely than we thought they would be probably about 10 days ago to reach the playoffs, just because obviously there are a couple of wins now. And again, the way, obviously the Rams, they had to win one of the Cowboys and Rams games. They won one of them, so they are still alive. And again, Green Bay having the injuries has helped them as well. And Pittsburgh, I mean, the Steelers are cooking on offense right now. This Aaron Rodgers-led offense the last couple of weeks has been really good, which has been interesting. And again, suddenly this game is huge, because if Pittsburgh loses this game, again, they've still got the tiebreaker over the Ravens, and they've still got to play the Ravens again as well. So for them, a loss doesn't really do much, and they've still got basically either way. It's going to come down to that game against the Ravens, another game against the Ravens. For the Lions, they simply cannot lose this game. Yeah, fascinating. The Lions are 6.5 point favourites in this one again, which is a line that really surprised me, because I thought, off the way that Pittsburgh have looked on offense the last couple of weeks, that would be a little bit smaller.
Yeah, I think the Lions will win, but I actually think the Steelers are going to cover. I think this one is going to be super tight. And like you say, the Lions, this is like a playoff game now. In fact, each week is going to be like a playoff game. They're going to have to win out if they want to get in. So I think they win, but I do like the Steelers to cover. I think they've been playing really well. They're going to look like they've got a really great chance of winning that AFC North, despite not being as talented as Baltimore. And we'll get that traditional thing of the Steelers will avoid a losing record and will avoid winning a playoff game.
I'm going to go Detroit here purely because the AFC North is never, it's going to come down to the final game. I think Pittsburgh's going to lose a game or two somewhere. Also the Steelers have the habit of losing big games and stuff. I don't trust them to beat the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions, how much, even with how good they played recently, obviously the defense of Pittsburgh was a massive disappointment. And also with how the Lions, how important it is to the Lions, I'm going to back them to. I picked Dallas the other day, and I regretted it massively. I don't want to make that mistake again.
I do have faith in the Lions to beat them. I just don't have faith in them covering that line. This feels like a field goal game to me. I think the Lions are certainly better and they're at home, but that line just seems a little bit too big for my taste.
No, I completely agree with you. I think it is big, but screw it. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm hoping we're gonna get a Aaron Rodgers in a shootout because he's shown that he's again the last couple of weeks he's shown that he can still do it, and these two defenses can't stop a thing. So you'd like to think there'll be lots of scoring in this one, which would be quite fun. And then the final game in the 9 p.m. slate is not great. The 9-5 Texans host the 2-12 Raiders. The Texans are 14.5-point favorites in this game, the biggest spread of the week. The Texans are on fire, Ben. And the offense. CJ Stroud and Nicky Collins, that connection is back now. The Texans are peaking at the right time.
Yeah, I really like what the Texans have become. The Raiders have been atrocious. I'm going to go with the Texans to cover this massive line.
Yeah, me too. And again, I think, is it Kenny Pickett starting again, or we'll see what happens?
I think so. I think so. That's a bad sign.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett against that Tex defense just it's giving me nightmares thinking about that game for him. I don't even want to imagine how he's feeling at night right now, preparing for this Texans defense. Yeah, give me Houston to cover the 14.5-point spread. And then the primetime games for this week are brilliant. Again, that's another reason why the early game, or the 6 p.m. slate is terrible, because obviously the ability to flex, like the Patriots Ravens game has been flexed to Sunday Night Football. The Ravens are 2.5-point favorites going up against the 11-3 Patriots, who have 4 more wins than them. Again, this is a very interesting spread. Obviously, it's in Baltimore, and the Patriots lost in sort of, you could say, embarrassing fashion last week. But this Ravens team is very up and down. That did surprise me, them being favourites, even if it is still 2.5 points.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Ravens here. I think that we know what the Ravens can do, and they've done very little of it this season. Even when they've won, they've not won in the way that we've seen the Ravens win in previous years. And I keep thinking, they're going to put it together. They're going to put it together. They're going to put it together. And if they're going to put it together against the Patriots, they're going to have to play a near perfect game. But I'm going to go with the Ravens to cover. The Patriots having a mini slide, but they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be good. But I think this is where it starts to come together a bit for the Ravens, and they can win that division.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Ravens as well. One, because they've been here, done it. Like they've played so many big games like this. Whereas this Patriots team, how many of these players have played in like huge games? Very, very little. You probably got Milton Williams, Stephon Diggs. Again, Milton Williams is not even healthy, so like very, very few of these players have played in big games on Sunday Night Football when you're playing for you want to win this division. Very few of these players on the Patriots have experienced that. Whereas obviously the Ravens have a lot. So I'm going to go for Baltimore as well. And again, I think that's just going to make the AFC race tasty. So I genuinely do think Buffalo probably will win this division if the Ravens win this game. Because I think they probably will beat the Eagles, if I'm being honest. Right now, and then Monday Night Football. This one's a fun one. Phillip Rivers playing on Monday Night Football with the Colts, a winning record. Who would have told you that? Well, a year ago, let alone a couple of weeks ago. The Colts now need to keep their season alive. They host the 10-4 San Francisco 49ers in this one. The Niners are 5.5-point favorites going to Indianapolis. Not much faith in this Colts team of how they look now, which kind of surprised me with how they actually look decent against the Seattle defense. This one's going to be fun. This is what primetime games are for. The Colts desperate. The Niners 5.5-point favorites. I mean, they've got a point to prove because they're a very good team themselves with all the injuries, and yet in the division they've got 2 absolutely amazing teams. Like in another world, this Niners team could be the 1 seed. At 10-4, and they're nowhere near that.
Yeah, exactly. They're the ones who could be standing in the musical chairs. They'll be hoping the Lions lose because that'll take a lot of the pressure off them. But this Colts team looks like it is just unraveling. They were so good against the Seahawks in terms of kind of playing against expectation and what we thought was going to happen in that game. I think it was a little bit of a fluke. I don't think they can keep this one close like they kept the Seahawks one close. I still don't understand how the Seahawks didn't do better. I'm going with the 49ers to cover here and to kind of perhaps put the last nail in the Colts coffin.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the Niners too. Brock Purdy's, he obviously had that bad game against the Panthers, but since then he's been on flames. And Ricky Pearsall's come back again. He had a nice game on the weekend. Jawan Jennings is healthy and playing well now. Like this Niners offense, obviously they're not going to get Brandon Ayuk back, but this Niners offense is pretty much as good as it can be. Shame about what's happened with their defense, but like they can score points. I don't know if this Colts team can score points with Phillip Rivers. So I'm going to go for the Niners to cover the 5.5 point spread as well. Right, that's all for today. A big thank you, Ben, for coming on again. Do you want to let everyone know how they can consume your stuff?
You can find me at Tweets from Ben on Twitter/X and on the Nat Coombs Show, and pretty much everything on the Nat Coombs Show, because the last couple of weeks I've done the Monday show with Mike Carlson as well, so you can check those ones out. Edge Rush, which we do midweek, and College Days, which I do with Dom Corbett. And we're obviously a very exciting part of the college season now. We've got the college football playoff happening this weekend. So if you want to get up to speed on that, if you're not quite sure, if you've not been watching it, then listen to the new episode of College Days, and that'll get you up to speed for the playoffs that are happening and the absolutely bizarre saga of the Michigan coach who started the day as the coach of Michigan, ended the day fired, and then in police custody. So if you want to know more about that, get on College Days.
Yeah, I'm happy it's the college football season as well, because if I see the words Miami and Notre Dame anymore in my timeline, I'm gonna flip out. It was about a week of that, just obviously, and then obviously Notre Dame missed out and then didn't obviously chose not to play a bowl game. Like very weird. Yeah. Very weird end to the college football season. But again, Saturday for you is going to be obviously the Packers Bears game on a Saturday as well.
I know. Oklahoma versus Alabama in the first playoff game, and then on Friday, and then there's three first round games on Saturday as well as that Bears Packers game. And like the first of those playoff games, I think that's on 5 o'clock is an absolute banger as well. So that's Miami, Texas A&M. So, and those are all free on DAZN right now. I don't think that'll be the case next season. So if you're curious about college football, it's a great time to just dip in and watch those games live for free. And if you decide to start with Texas A&M Miami on Saturday afternoon, then you won't go far wrong.
Absolutely. Well, it's been great having you on again, Ben. It's always the sort of love you sent to the podcast over the last couple of years. I really do. I appreciate that. That's all for now. I've been Sam. This has been the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast, and I'll see you probably either not just before Christmas, if not just after Christmas, to talk about this crazy week 16 slate, and then also week 17 and week 18, which is shaping up to be very interesting, a bit of a weird one. That's all for me now, and I'll see you next time on the Full 10 Yards NFL podcast.